Hi everyone, my name's Justin Herald and I'm going to be with you for the next half an hour or so. Before I start, I have to make two apologies. First and foremost, we just moved up to the Gold Coast last week and unfortunately most of my proper video editing and computers and microphones and backdrops are still in storage, haven't been released yet. So I do apologise for the very bland background, but hopefully my presentation will spark that up. Second, as of this morning, I've been tested with positive for influenza, so I'm going to battle my way through this one. But if I need to duck off and have a little cough or blow my nose, please excuse me for doing that. So what I'm going to talk about today is how you can grow and your business quite easily, how you can grow it without spending a great deal of money, and also the differences now in business as opposed to say 2.5 years ago. So the reality is, for the last 2.5 years, everything's changed. Consumerism has changed, the way people buy has changed, the way we do business has changed, the way we do business to business has changed massively. I see this a lot and I'm going to use a lot of examples. Excuse me. So everything's really changed, and unless we change with that, we're going to have a business that's going to plateau. You may have already seen this, where you're doing the same thing that used to work before and worked well, but now it's not working as well, and it's sort of frustrating. And I get that. I'm about to turn 52, and I didn't think I have to reinvent myself by the time I got to that age. But it's just one of those things that we have to now sort of get used to. There's an old saying that you can't fit a square peg in a round hole. My theory is you can if you force it, and that's what we're going to have to do for the next few months, a couple of years, is really force the growth. We've got to get consumer confidence back to our business. So if you think about it, consumerism, as I said before, has changed, but I'll give you an example. Well, I won't give you an example first. If you really delve into it, what's happening now is your competition is no longer just the same competitors you had before in the same marketplace. Your competitors are every other business, because for the last 2.5 years, most consumers have sat at home and have been able to shop anywhere, and it's been very much impulse. And it's been very hard for businesses to try and engage with their customers from that perspective. So a couple of Christmases ago, my wife said to me, we were sitting on the lounge at night time, what would you like for Christmas? And I said, I'd like a watch. And she got straight up and went straight into the kitchen, got a laptop. And I thought, bugger me, I should have said Harley. Anyway, about half an hour later, she's tapping away. I'm thinking, well, she's putting some good effort into this. I'm pretty happy with the effort. Another 15 minutes, I got up and went to get a glass of wine. And I walked past her and I said, do you need a hand? And she said, with what? I said, with my watch. She said, what watch? She said, I'm looking at handbags. See, this is the thing. We've got to try and get people's attention back to our business. Now, there's many ways you can do that. Amongst many things that I do, one of the businesses that I own is called Customer Culture, which is a staff training company, which has gone off during COVID because most businesses have realised they've never trained their staff, and especially after we've come out of COVID, they're now realising that there's no culture inside the business. They've got some people working remotely, some people working in-house. They've got new staff leaving, old staff leaving, new staff coming, and there's no culture. So they're starting to realise that we've got to actually train our staff. Now, if you want your business to grow, pretty simple stuff here. Look after your customers. Weird, because they might actually come back if you do that. There seems to be this tick and flick thing going on with businesses at the moment, more so large businesses, where they don't really care if you come back because there's another sucker coming down the road. And as you would understand, in small business, we can't afford to do that. And we've got to make sure that we look after our customers, because, and what we did, and I'll talk about this when with part of my story, but I created this saying, and it's been around now for 28 years, and my staff all knew it, and that is, we go after our customer's customer. By that I mean we have to give such great experiences to the people we're dealing with that they have to tell someone else about it. That way you don't have to advertise, because your customers become your greatest salespeople. So I'm going to talk about how I started my first business, which is what I've been asked to do, and we'll get into all the other things that I do later on. Excuse me, I do apologise, but today's the last day I could do this. So Um, I'm an accidental business guy. The only thing I passed in school was recess. I wasn't the smartest cookie in the jar. I didn't set out to become an entrepreneur, which is now a word. It wasn't a word back in my day. I just, fell into it and figured out that I was pretty good at it. And that's, for some of you watching this, you might not have the necessary skills on paper, but you've got the skills to get yourself to the next level in your business. Don't misjudge that. Don't, just because you don't have letters after your name doesn't mean it's not going to work. So I grew up in the church. My dad's a minister, and the reason that was a bit of frustration for me, nothing to do with my family, but being a minister's kid, everyone seems to tell you how to live your life. The problem I've got with that is I've got a rare disease, and that disease is I speak before I think. So in 1995, I was 25 years old, and a lady came up to me and said, "Justin, you've got an attitude problem." I said, "No, I don't." She said, "You answer everyone back." I said, "No, I don't." And she said, "Until you stop doing that, you're going to end up in the scrap heap of life." Now, the only reason I decided to start a business, it wasn't even considered that then, was to piss this lady off in my father's church. That was my business plan. No more, no less. That was it. So when we start a business, you've got to go and do your research. So I went and did my financial research. I went to the local ATM machine. I put my key card in the ATM machine. And at age 25, I had $1.25 in the bank. Now, you can't upset someone with $1.25. So I rang my brother Dean. I said, "Dean, I need to borrow some money." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because I want to upset so-and-so in the church." And he said, "All right, here's $50. So then I had to come up with a way that would upset her. So I thought the best way to do that would be to put my attitude problem on the back of a T-shirt. That way I don't even have to go anymore. I can upset her by proxy. So I went and I rung up my mate, Marty. Marty's one of my best mates. We used to do nothing together, and we were really good at it. And I said, "Marty, I'm going to start a business today." And he said, "You know how?" I said, "No." He said, "Can I come along and watch then?" I said, "Come along and watch." So then my market research was I also had to then figure out how far the printers were, because I only had the $50. My parents gave me $5 for fuel, and I had a little Mini back in those days, so I had to figure out how far will $5 get me, and then how many printers were in that little circumference. And so anyway, there was one printer. So we drove out to him, and I walked in and I said, "G'day, mate. I've chosen you out of every single person in the yellow pages," which wasn't a lie. I just couldn't afford to go to anyone else. And he said, "That's great." And I said, "I'm thinking the same thing." He said, "How much money do you have?" I said, "I have $50. And he said, "Well, you need $680. And I said, "Well, if I had $680, I just would have said to you, mate, I have $680. But as I said to you, mate, I have $50. Can we just have a $50 conversation, not a $680 conversation?" And he said, "I can't do it." And I said, "Well, you're missing the opportunity." And he said, "What opportunity?" I said, "To make $50. It's a pretty simple conversation. Remember I said before, you can't fit a square peg in a round hole, but you can if you force it? Not everyone's going to say yes. Not everyone's going to understand and agree with what you've got is a great solution for their business or as a consumer when you know it is. This is a frustration that happens to me on a daily basis with the customer culture business, where companies would ring me to tell me that they've got a major issue inside their business where customers are unhappy. We've got the solution. It's a very simple solution. It's $99 per staff member, regardless of how many staff members you've got. And it will actually create a culture and create a baseline inside your business. And then they'll come back and, "Oh, I'm not too sure." So they know there's a solution. So one of the things you've got to do a lot now, more so than ever before, and just remember this because this will be a key of your success, is you've got to sell the problem, not your solution. Unless your customers if they don't know they've got a problem, then your solution is irrelevant. And I can go into many businesses and say, "Well, here's your problem, and here's what I can do to fix it." And if they can't see that their customers aren't happy, well, they're not even going to look at my training programs. So the way you do that, the way I do that is I do a lot of staff meetings now with businesses prior to even mentioning anything about the courses. So I'll just come in and do a 45-minute staff talk, do them all the time. I love doing them. And then when they finish, they go, "Oh, this is amazing. Is there anything else you can offer?" So I've had to extend the process as opposed to 2.5 years. And that's the thing that you've got to do now. The other thing that you've also got to look at, I'm not sure if anyone else gets frustrated with this, but there's a lot of cooking shows on TV. One of the things that is now the big thing is the whole deconstructing a meal. I don't get it. I just would like my meal to look like my meal should. I had a deconstructed pavlova recently. Made no sense to me whatsoever, and it looked pretty bad. That's the same thing you've got to do in your business right now. You've got to deconstruct everything that you do, all the moving parts, all the different profit centers that you've always put under the one umbrella, and you might be able to get many bites at the one cherry. This is something that I do a lot because I've got one of my businesses is business mentoring, and I love doing it with my clients. And the main thing that we do early on is deconstruct everything that they're doing, and I show them all the different profit centers that they could actually double dip and get more bites of that cherry from the same customer, where it was all put under the one thing before. So anyway, the printer guy said, "I'll do that for $50, but don't tell anyone." I got 4 shirts printed up for the $50. I sold 3 of those shirts to 3 of my mates. One of them was my brother, and Dean said, "I just paid you $50. Why do I have to pay you 20?" I said, "Because I'm a businessman, Dean. This is the way it works." We all went to church the following Sunday. We all walked in at the same time. We all had the same T-shirt on. We all sat on the front row, and this lady was ticked off. It's the best $50 I've ever spent in my entire life. Now, I wasn't expecting a great deal from that. I also do think there's a lot of people lately who are expecting to get their businesses back to the levels they were in the shortest period of time. But as I've mentioned before, because everything's changed, not only lockdowns, but the way that the mentality of the people we're selling to has changed massively, we've got to try and adapt to that. So it's not going to be happening really quickly. Excuse me. It may, sorry, I do apologise. It may, and good on you if it does, but don't be disappointed if it's going to be a little bit of a harder slog. But as I said before, if you can deconstruct it, you can actually have many bites of the cherries that will get you there, not so much quicker, but will actually have cash flow happening in a better way. So on that day, that's all I wanted to do was upset her. I wasn't thinking anything beyond that Sunday. And on that day, people came up and said 2 things I wasn't expecting. And this is what we want our customers to do. We want them to come to us with ideas, or the better way to sell to them, or have you thought about doing whatever. Just because you're a business owner, just because I'm a business owner, doesn't mean I know everything. There could be a better way, it could be a better product that I could actually sell to my potential customers. And if I've got my ears open, then that would be good. So the first thing they said to me was, "Justin, I really like that T-shirt." I said, "Thank you." The second thing they said to me is, "Justin, can I buy one?" I hadn't thought that far ahead. I just wanted to upset the lady. So the only time I'll talk about figures when I speak is now, just to show you how the business went. I'm very much a big believer, and I guide my clients in working out an organic growth method and system. You can throw a lot of money at a business, and if it doesn't have an organic aspect to it and an organic growth aspect to it, you're going to waste that money. Or do you not throw any money at a business and that has an organic aspect to it? And that a lot of that's got to do with the structure of the business. It's also got to do with pricing, all that sort of stuff. And we won't get into that today because it gets a bit deep. So I just knew, because for me, as I said, I didn't pass school that well. But to me, I had this common sense mentality. Common sense is like deodorant. The people that really need to use it rarely do. But anyway, so I just thought, well, if I'm going to make one and sell one, I need to then be able to make 2 from that one sale. So I had to have 100%, my accountant says it should be 50% when I say it, but 100% marker. That's all I knew. I just thought, well, that makes sense to me. So I sold the 3 shirts, I could make 6. Sold those 6, could make 12, 24, 48, 96, need a calculator after that, but that's the way that the business grew. First year's turnover was $50 startup was $980,000. The second year was $2.5 million. Third year was $5.5 million, $12.5 million, $22.5 million. The last year of the business was $37.5 million. So it went okay. The good thing, though, about $37 million, besides the cars, I love cars, but besides the cars, it became an international brand, sold globally. So wherever that lady went on holidays around the world, I was pissing her off globally. It was amazing. It's the best $50 I've ever spent. So I didn't know what I was doing. There could be some of you watching this now who have just gone into business, come out of corporate. This is a big one that I have as clients. Come out of corporate where there's been structure, there's been someone else's budget and money that you can play with, and you'll do it well. But now you're in your own thing, and you go, I'm sort of out of my depth here, which is fine. I think it's probably better that you don't know what you're about to get into, to be really honest. See, when I started Attitude, there was no internet. So it didn't exist. So we had to do everything the old-fashioned way and hard way. So if I wanted to get my brand into a regional area, I had to get in the car, drive 4 or 5 hours, go to the local post office, hope that no one had torn out the page that had all the retail shops in it in the post office, and then get my little street guide, and then figure out where I had to go, and hopefully they would be open, and hopefully they would like my product. When we did that, with the amount of effort we put into that, we really did a good job, because we didn't want to drive 4 hours home with no sale. Now a lot of people just go to Google and try and send an email and wonder why no one's getting back to them, because we've lost that connection. And that's a big thing. If you're trying to grow your business and you've got no idea what you're doing, go back to old school. If you don't know old school, it is all about connection. It's all about engagement. It's all about creating relationships with people that you would like for them to give you money and buy your products or services. So anyway, I as I said, I didn't know what I was doing. So I just thought, well, I'll just sell to my friends and friends of my friends and friends and friends and friends of my friends. And that's the way that I started. I didn't know anything else. After a while, though, I ran out of people that liked me. So I thought, well, I can't really sell to the people that don't like me. So I thought, well, what do I do? And I had a great idea one day, because I'm an ideas man. And that idea was, there's shops out there that sell clothing. And I have clothing. I know it's brilliant. Take it in. Brilliant. So I decided to go to this place in Sydney, far enough away from home just in case it didn't work. So drove out, walked into this surf store, and this is the conversation I had. I said, "G'day, mate. Can I show you my new brand?" He said, "What's it called?" I said, "It's called Attitude." He said, "I never heard of it." I said, "Well, you haven't heard of it because I haven't told you about it." He goes, "Well, no one's asking for it." I said, "Well, no one's asking for it because they don't know about it. And if they don't know about it, they're not going to ask you for it. But if they find out about it and you still don't know about it and they ask you about it, you don't know about it, so you're not going to have any conversation about it because you don't know about it." He said, "Well, there's no demand for your brand." I said, "Well, there's no demand because no one knows about it. And if no one knows about it, they're not going to ask about it. So how about I show you, and then you're going to go, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And then you're going to put it into your shop. And I just want one shirt, just one shirt." And I said, then what's going to happen? Someone's going to come into your shop one day and say, "Excuse me, mate, do you have anything new that I've never heard of before?" And you're going to go, "Ooh, yes." And you're going to take them up to the rack and show them my T-shirt. And they're going to go, "Love that shirt. Can I buy that?" And you're going to go, "Yes, you can." They're going to wear it to their mate's barbecue a couple of weeks later. The mates are going to go, "Mate, I love that shirt. Where'd you get that one from?" And he's going to say, "From your surf store." So his mates are going to come into your surf store a few weeks after that and say, "My mate bought a shirt from you a couple of weeks ago. Love it. Can I buy one similar?" Which is what we call demand. But we can't get to demand because you're an idiot. You won't let me even tell you about it. You know what he said to me? "When there's demand, come back and see me." Now, it's now illegal to hit stupid people. I'm not sure why they brought that law in. But for me, there's one thing that I do. It's one thing that when I speak, because that's what I do for a living now, at conferences all over the world, it's the one thing that people go, "You know what, Justin, that really works." So the next time you're in front of a numbnut, it's doing your head in your head, giving them a mental headbutt. Makes you feel so much better about the whole thing. You virtually break their nose. Anyway, I left that store all dejected. Walking back to my car, I sit in my car, and I had an epiphany. I don't know how to spell it, but I know I had one. Up until that point, I was listening to every single person around me tell me how I should be running my business, my mates. It was at that minute that I realised they're all on the dole. So maybe they've got no clue. So I decided on that day and that day forward, and ever since to this day, that I was going to grow my business and run my business one way and one way only. This is not rocket science. Old school. And that was through my personality. Now, if you don't have a personality, we will be selling them later on in the day. 2 for the price of 1. Great deal. But what makes you you is why people will do business with you. You could have the best quality widget under the sun, but if you're not a nice person, they're not going to buy it from you. You can have not the best product in the world, but are a nice person, and you engage with your customers, they'll be more forgiving. And they will become a great asset to you, those customers, because they'll help you improve your business and your products. So I'm sitting in the car and I'm thinking, all right, I'm doing this the wrong way. I decided that day, from now on, I'm going to have fun. And if it doesn't work, I've had fun. If it does work, I've had fun. So I ring up 4 of my mates and I said, I need you guys to come over tonight. They said, why? I said, I'm having a board meeting because I'm a businessman. They come over that night. They said, what's up? I said, I want one of you to ring the surf store once a week, and this is all I want you to say. Week 1, ring, ring. Hello. Do you have any attitude gear? No, we don't. Week 2, ring, ring. Hello. Do you have any attitude gear? No, not yet. Week 3, ring, ring. Do you have any attitude gear? The guy goes, no, but a few people have been asking for that brand. Week 4, do you have any attitude gear? The guy goes, no, we're waiting for the rep to come back in because there's such a huge demand for his brand. There was no demand. It's just me and my 4 mates ringing up asking the same question. You see, sales is all about zipping and opening. I didn't hear that guy say, I don't like your brand. I heard him say, no one is asking for your brand. Now, I wasn't trying to be a smart aleck. I just thought, well, I'll get them to ask for it then, if that's all it's going to take. So you might find if your business is struggling a little bit now, especially in the area of sales, you might find that you're not listening to how someone wants to buy from you. The other thing too that you've also got, especially in sales, you've got to get it away from a need and into a want. When it's a want, there's emotional attachment involved in the process of selling or buying. When there's a need, yes, they might need it, but then price could be an issue or whatever. So we've got to try and get them from need over into want. And that's what I did. He wanted to have my brand because so many people were asking for it. 4 people. Following day after the last phone call, I went in. A different brother was there this time. So I walked in and I said, g'day, mate. Put my bag on the ground. Wonder if I can talk about my new brand. He said, what's it called? I said, it's called Attitude. He said, stop. I said, okay. He said, everyone is asking for your brand. Wasn't everyone, just me and my 4 mates asking the same question. He put an order in, $1,587. It was time for financial retirement for me right there and then. Sold out in 2.5 weeks. One thing that I did do when I got back in the car from the first rejection at that store, and this is something that my clients will rave at. If you ever talk to them, they'll tell you this works an absolute treat. I created what I call a Objection Journal. Now, technically, it was a piece of paper I wrote on, but it sounds better if you say journal. And what I would do every time I got an objection, I'd write it down because I had to overcome that objection. So I'll give you an example. When I got back in the car, I wrote down, no one's asking for the brand. So the second store that I went into, I said, hi, my name's Justin. I'm from a brand called Attitude, which no one's probably asking for that at this point in time because it hasn't been out for that long. I overcame that objection before they even came back with it. They then said, that shop, we've already done our ordering for this season. So third store, hi, my name's Justin from a brand called Attitude, which you probably haven't heard of and no one's probably asking for it at the moment. And you probably already have done your ordering up until this stage, but we are stock line service and your minimum order is only 1 shirt. So I'd love to see if 1 shirt could sell out of your store and there's basically minimal risk to that whole thing. No one ever ordered 1 shirt. And that's what I did. So after a while, by the time I got to my 10th shop, it was just full of objection solving before they even had it. So I would really encourage you to start noting some of that stuff down. And you might find then that you're getting the same objection all the time that you're never actually overcoming prior to getting it. It saves you a lot of time. I tried to get into other stores, but I still had a bit of drama because no one had ever heard of it. So I'm a very big believer in something that people don't believe in. Well, have been taught the opposite. And that is, sorry, I do need to blow my nose. Sorry. I apologise. I can breathe again. And that is strategic quitting. Now, I'm not talking about quitting everything, but not every part or every process or every bit that you do in your business is going to work all the time. What you've got to be is aware of what needs to be put in the bin and what we replace it with. So I was struggling to get it into stores as quickly as I thought it would, especially the fact that it kept on selling out in most stores after over 2 weeks. So I decided to see if I actually had something or it was going to be pushing it uphill. So I decided to see if the consumer liked my product. Now, this is prior to the internet, remember that. A lot of people go online and go, oh, it's working or it's not working. You know, you've got a lot of competition online, so it doesn't surprise me if it's not working. So I decided to go to a place in Sydney called Parklea Markets. So I rang up Marty and said, Marty, do you want to come? He said, no. I said, I'll pay $100 a day if you do. And he said, I'd love to come and support your dream, Justin. So we drove out, and what they provided back in the olden days in the markets was, I think it was $86 or $87 a day. They gave you a table, cloth behind, and I asked for I didn't know this was a thing, but to me it made sense for a corner thing, which now we know is location, but I just wanted a corner stand so that way it minimised how many walls would be obstructing. We got there and I said to Marty, what do we do? He goes, I don't know, I'm a crane driver. I said, okay, well, why don't we just tip the boxes? So we did. Got the boxes, tipped them. Looked like an 18-year-old's bedroom. Then we set up, I put the slogans behind me so people could read them so, you know, they would know what it is. 9 o'clock essentially it starts, opens up. 9:15 we'd sold out. Lines and lines and lines of people wanting to buy my T-shirt. Halfway through the selling frenzy, Marty turns to me and says, I think they think we're someone else. I said, I don't care. Keep on selling. Shocked the living daylights out of me. The one person you need to impress on a daily basis is yourself. No one else. Yourself first. Because you've got to push yourself and push yourself. The only time you'll grow your comfort zone is when you're out of it. Remember that. It took off in the markets. Massively. And I was driving to the markets one Saturday morning with Marty, and I said, Marty, I remember something my dad said. My dad's a very smart cookie. He's got more degrees than a thermometer. One of those very motivational people when you're growing up, which really was not fun. But something my dad said to us kids when we were younger, I was probably about 14 or 15, and it made no sense to me then. But it did as soon as I started a business. And that thing he said is, if you want to succeed in life, find someone that's already gone down a path that you're trying to go down and learn from their mistakes, not their successes. And that way you don't have to make your own mistakes because they're going to tell you which ones they've made, and it's going to be a bit of an easier thing. I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I'm constantly surprised how many people do not have a business mentor in their business. I still do to this day. 28 years in business, still have someone that I regularly will talk to and get advice from and run things by. I pay them an absolute fortune, and it is worth every single cent. So I said to Marty, when we get there, you set up, I'm going to go and find someone and have a chat, see if I'm doing this right. He goes, good idea. So we get there, he goes one way, I go the other way. I found a guy that had been in the markets for a long time, older bloke. I went up to him and said, mate, I'm just wondering if I can get some advice. He said, yeah, you're destined to fail. And I went, okay, that one's for you. And I said, oh, why is that? And he goes, oh, you're selling a fad. And I said, mate, I don't even know what a fad is. And we were doing between $5,000 to $7,000 a weekend. So I'm thinking, if this is a fad, which I don't know what it is, liking fads. And he said, but it's too quiet in here anyway. And I'm thinking, well, okay, well, I can't wait for it to pick up. Like, made no sense what he was saying. So, you know, not every bit of advice is going to be good advice. You don't have to take it just because someone says it. As he's sort of wrapping up his conversation, a riveting one, a whole heap of people started to walk in. And I said to him, look, here come some people. Let's see how we go today, eh? Good luck. He goes, I wouldn't serve these people. I went, oh, now I know why you're quiet. I said, why wouldn't you serve them? He goes, they've got no shoes on. Not sure if you've ever been to a market stall. You don't get dressed up to go to a market stall. I said, I'll serve them. He said, why would you serve them? I looked down and I said, because I've got no shoes on. Seems to make sense. And I started to realise pretty quickly that the amount of people that prejudge their customers based upon how they look, what they wear, what they drive, you know, it costs a lot of money to look like a dag these days. So having an outward appearance valuation is silly. If you've got a hand in a pocket, you can be my customer. Don't care. Came back to Marty, however, and I said, Marty, I know how we're going to grow this business, especially here in the markets, where I had essentially 250 competitors, because no one knew I was there. They just went to the markets to spend money. So they're going to compare mine against apples and oranges or against some AC/DC T-shirt. Didn't matter. Marty goes, how are we going to grow? I said, we're not going to sell anymore. He said, what? I said, no, we're not going to sell. If the customer instigates the conversation around the products, we'll talk about them. But we're not going to lead with the products. He goes, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to have fun with them. We're going to engage and interact with them. We're going to give them an experience, because what I want them to do when they leave here, because most people never bought the first time they came to the stand. They would either think that this is another brand that's somewhere else in here and I can barter a better price, or they didn't know what they wanted to buy yet. So sometimes you only get one chance. Well, not sometimes, all the time. You only get one chance at a first impression. You don't get a second chance. So I said, Marty, we've got to make a great impression. So let's just have fun with our customers. It went off. We got this following of people that would just come in on Saturdays or come in on a Sunday just to hang out. They would always buy something, because I always had to come up, and it was good for me because that would then force me to come up with new designs and all that sort of stuff. And it just really worked. And it was the customer's customer thing that I spoke about before. We made sure, and they would then bring friends in and hang out with us at the same which never had anything to do with this before. But because we're having fun, because they didn't get this anywhere else. In business, if you've got staff, in business, your competitive edge has to be one thing. Now, most people think that their competitive edge is going to be their price. Problem with that is I can undercut your price pretty quickly if I decide so. They also then think, okay, well, it's my product, or service. Problem with that is I can come up with the same similar type product or similar type service and then undercut you with that as well. Your competitive edge has to be your people. It has to be you if you're a sole trader. It has to be your staff. And this is why staff training is so important. If you're not doing it, you're missing out. Now, the reality is most people, stopping staff training to save money, to me, is like stopping your watch to save time. It's not going to do anything other than everything will roll on, right? If you haven't done any staff training, I encourage you to do it. Do it yourself. But that way you can be consistent, and the customers are getting a consistent experience, as well as you're creating a baseline. If you ever want to put yourself to sleep, go to the Bureau of Statistics website. Brilliant reading. But just prior to COVID, they released statistics which was for the 3 years prior to that on training. And it worked out that 87% of adult staff had zero training in the workplace in a 5-year period. Just let that sink in. That means there's only a small percentage of ones getting training. If you want your business to grow, here's as difficult as it gets. Don't suck as much as your competitor. Now, if they're not looking after their customers, you should, right? And if you're not looking after your customers, they will. So what we've got to do is get this thing moving. Markets was amazing for me. I've only got a few minutes left, but I got a lot of media attention after that, because someone that knew Alan Jones, the radio guy, he did an interview with me on how I started my business. Now, the media have always thought it's amazing you start something with $50. It's sort of something you don't tell anyone when you're 25. I've only got 50. Well, actually didn't. I only had $1.25. So it's not something you tell people. Then A Current Affair did a story, and that then blew up. And on the first night that it went on air on A Current Affair, 187 stores rang me to put my brand into their store. Then I had this thing. I haven't got a great deal of time to go through this, but there's a lot of opportunities out there to grow a business, and I do this a lot with my clients. There's many different structures and models that people don't realize. One of them, which was my biggest success, was licensing. So Philips approached me. They wanted to license my brand. I went into the meeting. I had no idea what licensing was. Once again, this is back before internet. No idea what licensing was. So they did this big spiel about how they wanted to do attitude stereos, attitude TVs. They got to the end of it and they said, I said, how much is that going to cost me? They said, no, we pay you to put your name on our product. And we give you a royalty for every single one that's sold. So that was a big deal. That was a massive deal. That sort of went most places around the world. And then after that meeting, I decided that I liked this licensing thing that I didn't even know about 2 hours before. So I then looked at how could I license all other products. Now, licensing is good. I just won't get too technical. if you've got products that you know would be quite, if you've got a good business and you've got a good following, it's got to be that. But you've got products that you know would suit alongside your product, but you don't want to make it yourself, then you might find there's companies out there that want your market. And that's what Philips wanted my 18 to 25-year-old market. Holden did an Attitude car. We did, it was 182 companies around the world with 915, I think it was, products underneath those companies that then put Attitude on it. So you name a product, it had Attitude on it, got between 2 and 22.5% of the turnover of every single one of those. What was my investment in that? $0. I had total creative control. They couldn't make anything without my approval. They couldn't sell anything without my approval. They sold it, they stocked it, they processed it. I got a royalty check. There's a lot of different ways right now you can grow your business. And what you've got to do is try and figure out, is there an easier way for me to do what I'm doing right now? If you're, as I said before, if you're still doing the same thing the same way, then you're going to be struggling, right? And I actually think it's all about now doing something that I've always done. And if you keep this in the back of your mind, you've got to simplify, then magnify. Do a spring clean on your business. Take stuff out that it doesn't work. Take processes out. If you've got some systemized stuff that's getting in the way of the customer's stuff, do an audit. This is something that I do for a lot of customers at the moment, and it's not expensive if you're interested. I do a customer journey audit. So what does the customer actually go through to do business with you? Most people go, oh yeah, I know. Most people don't. And I have to tell people, here's your problem. No phone number on your website. I left 3 emails, no one's rung me back. All this sort of stuff, because the customer's out there. Well, you want them over to your side. But if you're making it hard for them to come to your side, then they're never going to turn up. So that's my talk. The last thing that I've always done for Gary is, in the old, I've taken all my products off justinherald.com because people just buy it when I speak. But if you're looking for some advice and looking for some input, I've used to have all CD sets and training programs and stuff on my website. What I've done now is I've put it all onto a USB, the Entrepreneur Key, and it's got 18 hours worth of how to grow your business, how to market, how to sell, how to do everything in your business. 8.5 hours. There's workbooks in there, and that normally would come to 3.5 if you did it as individual products. But for Gary, it's only $400 if you're interested. If you are interested, I will also, and you buy it, I will also give you a free hour of my time, one-on-one. That will just be me helping you in your business to get that business to the next level. All you do is go to justinherald.com and just fill out the contact form, and just send me your stuff. So I'm interested in the USB, and I'll give you a call. But this stuff really works. I can give you multiple testimonials. I wish you all the best, and I hope you have a great conference, and I hope you got a lot out of what I said.